This is your friendly neighborhood PhD, and you're listening to the Tide Pod. Well, hey, everybody, it's another episode of the Tide Pod, and today I'm joined by Cory Lee. Definitely happy to have you join, and we'll talk for sure about, everything that you're doing with travel for accessibility and offering trips, for people in wheelchairs that might not otherwise have that opportunity. So I'm sure we'll get into all of those details in a little bit, but it's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And I am so excited to be on your podcast finally. I know we've talked about it for a bit, and I
Yeah,
actually am not a resident of Tennessee.
you're
I am
right.
in
You're just
I'm
past
in
the,
Georgia, but
yeah,
like I'm very close to Chattanooga, Tennessee, though.
yeah.
So I'm in Chattanooga multiple times a week.
Well, I'm curious, what time zone are you in Georgia? Is it Eastern?
Yeah, I am
Okay,
Eastern.
okay,
Yeah.
because I'm in the half of Tennessee that's Central Time still, so
Ah,
it's
okay.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, definitely wanted to start out kind of with a kind of an icebreaker type question. But
Yeah.
I usually ask, is there sort of a song or something, a theme song, or maybe something in childhood that kind of carried over that connects to you in some way, or if it's even disability related? Like, is there any particular song that comes to mind?
Um, I mean, not necessarily like disability related for a
Yeah.
song, but more travel related. And like when I listen to it, I'm always inspired to like book a trip.
Okay.
It's a song by One Republic called "I Lived."
Yeah, I've heard that one.
It's so good, and like every time I listen to it, I'm like, okay, I need to like break out of my comfort zone. I need to get out there and see the world. Like,
Yeah.
let's book a flight. So I
Yeah.
really, really love that song for inspiration.
I love the travel music too, like regardless of kind of whether you fly or drive or whatever, but kind of getting that sort of road trip playlist or something is
Oh
always
yeah, for
pretty
sure.
cool. Yeah. Well, that's definitely a good one. But yeah, that actually spins really nicely into, I wanted to ask you kind of to introduce kind of yourself and what you're working on, kind of your backstory, if you want to give just like an overview of that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, of course. So at the age of 2, I was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, which is a form of muscular dystrophy. And basically, with SMA, it means that I have overall muscle weakness and it is degenerative. So I will get weaker over time. And I feel like that's kind of a constant motivator for me to travel like as much as I can now while I'm undoubtedly more able than I will be in the future. So I got my first power wheelchair at the age of 4, and I've been using a power wheelchair ever since then. I'm 35 years old now, by the way. And I started my blog back in 2013 when I was about to graduate from college with a degree in marketing. And I started trying to find a job, putting out applications. And finally, one day I got a call from an advertising firm in Pennsylvania. And that he said that if I could fly to Pennsylvania the next day, that he would give me an interview. And so they covered the flight, which I was like super excited about at that time.
Yeah.
And I flew to Pennsylvania the next day. And as soon as I went into the hiring manager's office, he looked me up and down and he said, "Well, this job involves traveling, so you're definitely not the best fit." And
Yeah.
he really shut me down before he even gave me a chance to do the
Wow.
interview. And so in that moment, like I was really upset and dismayed and thought, why did I even go to college for all of these years if nobody is even going to give me an interview or give me a
Yeah.
chance at a job? And so around that same time, coincidentally, I was also planning a college graduation trip to Australia. And I got online and pretty quickly realized that there was not a lot of accessible travel information on the internet back in
Hmm.
2013 anyway. And so between that hiring manager telling me that I couldn't travel and then realizing a lack of information, those two things happening within the same week is what motivated me to start my blog, Curb Free with Cory Lee. And it's been an absolute whirlwind of a journey ever since. I've gone to, I think I'm up to 54 countries now,
Nice.
and all 7 continents.
Wow. That's really cool. I'm curious when you're kind of given that no from a job application, or you realize that the challenges of actually finding it in the first place, like how did you kind of come to terms with that? I know it was kind of all those things happening at once, but like just the mental side of getting the training, getting the degree,
Yeah.
and then
Oh, I mean, college, I'm sure you can imagine. I don't know like
yeah.
if you were able to go to college or what your history
Yeah, I
is.
actually was there a little too long, but yeah.
Okay, okay. But I mean, hiring caregivers throughout college
Oof,
was
yeah.
a constant battle, and just like having that help and assistance because I moved away from home for college.
Yeah.
So I was like trying to be as independent as possible and hire caregivers, and it was a constant issue and battle to have them on board like kind of 24/7 throughout college. And
Yeah.
so when I got turned down from that job initially and was told like, I couldn't do that job because of my
Hmm.
disability, basically. I mean, I really was like in a period of depression for a
Yeah.
few weeks after that, just because, like, I mean, I thought, I mean, why did I go through all of this? Like, what was the point in going to college and
Hmm.
fighting to get caregivers and trying to constantly hire new ones that are
Yeah.
dependable and train them if I'm not even going to be able to work and nobody's going
Yeah.
to see beyond the wheelchair. And so that was like definitely a big issue for me, like right there in the beginning, and even in the first like a bit of, like after I launched the blog, was getting destinations to like
Hmm.
realize that accessibility is important and that they
Yeah.
need to cater to travelers with disabilities, because like in the travel industry, it's so for so long it's only been able-bodied people that have been highlighted in travel advertising and
Hmm.
marketing and by destinations. And so when I entered the travel industry in 2013, I was like one of the very early people to focus on accessible travel. Like
Hmm.
there were a few others at that time, but not very many. So it's been a constant learning process for me over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious, it's probably evolved, I would imagine, from, what, like even flying, just as an example, in 2013. What is it like now compared to then when you fly? Have you noticed like any kind
Yeah.
of improvements at all?
Yeah, I mean, flying is still a nightmare, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think there is so far that we need to go within air travel to make
Yeah.
it truly inclusive and accessible. I mean, I dread every single flight that I take, honestly, but I do think it is improving, and I believe that for the first time ever, accessibility within air travel is finally being talked about in mainstream outlets.
Yeah.
And Delta Flight Products invented a prototype
Hmm.
where wheelchair users could actually stay in their wheelchair on a plane.
That'd be a
So,
game changer.
for the first time in my life, like in the history of the world,
Yeah.
we do have major companies thinking about accessible air travel. So
Hmm.
I'm really hopeful that within the next 5 to 10 years that we will see a drastic improvement, but it's just kind of a slow process to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah, painfully slow, pretty much. And
Oh yeah.
and I was just thinking too, like spur of the moment on that job that put the effort in to fly out there and do the interview and everything. Like I mean, that's a really difficult thing to do. And
Oh yeah.
then, to turn up there and then have that experience. I can't imagine, all the things going on in your mind at that point.
Oh yeah, and I barely even like traveled anywhere at that point. Like I
Yeah,
was brand new in the game. Like maybe I'd taken a few flights before that, but nowhere far really. So
yeah,
I mean, it was really like a stressful experience to even get to that hiring manager's office in
yeah.
Pennsylvania, and then to immediately be told, like I couldn't do it. It wasn't for me. Like it was definitely just a disappointment.
And that was kind of right before, I guess, the time where virtual calls were kind of a thing. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can think of like Skype back, years ago, but even 2013, I don't think there was really that much widespread use of virtual type
Yeah, I mean,
interviews. So
there may have been like Skype. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
Skype existed, but like hardly anybody used it regularly. Like it was pretty rare to even like use it, I think. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I wanted to see on the as far as the travel side, like destinations. I'm curious. And you probably have posted or written it or something at some point, but like, what was the maybe most and least accessible like
Well,
destination that you went to out of the country?
I would say least accessible for me was probably Paris.
Okay.
I went to Paris back in 2011, and I had a really hard time getting around with transportation.
Mhm.
The metro was not accessible, and there was only one accessible taxi in the city that was available when I visited, and it was 800 euros per day to use it. And
Yeah.
so it was like prohibitively expensive. But luckily, we were only there for one day on a day trip from London.
Yeah.
And so I've heard that Paris has improved a lot since 2011. So I would love to go back and kind of revisit it and see if it's gotten any better since then.
Well, you would hope the
Hopefully it has.
Paralympics kind of
Yeah, yeah,
hopefully help with
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully so. But I've heard good things about it now. So I mean, I'll revisit one day and check it out again. And
Yeah.
then I would say most accessible. I really love kind of anywhere in Scandinavia.
Mhm.
I think Helsinki, Finland is doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Every mode of transportation is accessible, whether you want to ride like the metro, the buses, the trams. They have over 300 accessible taxis in
Wow.
Helsinki. So Helsinki is a really great city for wheelchair accessibility. I've also had great luck in like Amsterdam and
Mhm.
Stockholm. Kind of all over that Scandinavia region is really, really good.
Oh wow. That sounds really cool. I'm always thinking about like what the countries are doing that, do they just have an emphasis on that area, or like what I'm curious, like why is it so different, in some countries versus others?
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
mean, I honestly like I'm not sure because even in countries where like people so often like my followers and readers of my blog will just assume like that only the US is a possibility for wheelchair
Right.
users to travel in because we have the ADA. But
Hmm.
I've actually found better accessibility in other countries that don't necessarily have regulations in place for accessibility
Yeah.
because they're like not doing it because they have to, according to the law. They're really like focusing on accessibility because they actually care.
Yeah.
And it's more from like a moral standpoint, which I think really is even better sometimes because they
Totally.
go above and beyond for accessibility.
Yeah, that makes such a difference too, because like ADA is such a baseline standard,
Yeah,
and so like anything beyond that, I feel like is really a challenge to get. And I don't know, I almost wonder if like those countries have people in wheelchairs or with disabilities more that are maybe influencing some kind of policy, or I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
There could be.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But that's interesting. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog barking.
I
Uh,
didn't even hear him.
Okay, good. But no, that sounds fun. Like I know from personal experience, I was able to fly to a few places around the country, to like Seattle and San Francisco, that kind of thing. But
Yeah, yeah.
like after with progression of the disability, and now I actually have a portable ventilator, so I'm just really, really hoping they get the planes with the
Yeah.
lockdowns through the chair in the near
Oh
future.
yeah.
But we'll see.
Hopefully soon. Like I recently talked with a representative from Delta Flight Products just a few weeks ago,
Yeah,
and they were saying that realistically, they're thinking it will be within the next like 5 to 7 years that we'll see that actually on planes.
yeah.
So, like, I mean, hopefully, like, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but we'll
It can
see.
happen fast enough. I know that for sure.
I know.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah. But I wanted to ask you about your nonprofit too. Like I'm sure, like going from the blog format, if you want to just talk a little bit about like the evolution that that's gone through, and kind of what the mission is of your nonprofit.
Yeah, back in 2022, I launched a nonprofit organization called the Curb Free Foundation. And through the nonprofit, we provide travel grants to other wheelchair users
Mhm.
so that they can go on their dream trip at absolutely no cost. So if you go to thecurbfreefoundation.com and fill out an application, let us know what your dream trip is, why you want to go there. We would hopefully love to send you there. We can only send people as donations are coming in. We're a
Yeah.
501c3 nonprofit.
Hmm.
So we are currently like trying to raise money to give more dream trips away. But so far, we've been able to give 7 away in the past few years. We've sent people to Paris. Just a few months ago, we sent a girl to Paris. We sent someone to Morocco on her dream
Hmm.
trip. She was
Interesting.
able to ride a camel in the Sahara Desert, even, which was pretty amazing.
Ooh,
We've
wow.
sent people on beach vacations, on cruises, to Disney World, like all kinds of really amazing trips. So
Yeah.
if anyone is listening and like has a dream trip that they've always wanted to do, definitely fill out an application on our website, and hopefully we can send you there one day.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, like there's so many destinations I think that, and like you said, wheelchair users probably often don't think about having out of the country trips as an option
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of time or whatever. So yeah, that's very
Oh, yeah.
cool.
And I know, like, traveling with a wheelchair, like, it
Yeah,
is so expensive. Like, it's much more expensive than traveling as an able-bodied person.
yeah.
And so that's really why we launched the foundation, was just to provide like some sort of relief for people. And
Yeah.
like, so it doesn't have to be so expensive. Like, you can at least go on this one dream trip at no
Hmm.
cost whatsoever. So we cover like if you need to take a care attendant, we'll cover their flight, hotel, like everything for them. So I mean, it's really been my favorite thing that I've ever done is
Yeah.
launching a nonprofit, just to be able to like give back to the disability community.
Yeah. And what was kind of the, I guess, main catalyst for you to actually start that foundation? Was there like one particular thing, or was it just from your experience
I
traveling?
mean, it
Like,
was really just from people like whenever I would post about a trip,
yeah,
I would receive comments and messages from people saying like, "Well, that trip looks amazing, but I could never afford it. Like in my wildest dreams, I could never afford it." And
yeah.
like I totally get that. Like when I travel, 90% of the trips that I take are comped by the destination. So
Mhm.
I'm not
Okay.
just some like rich guy that's traveling the world, like trust me, I wish that was the case, but it's
Yeah.
not. So the destinations will cover the flights for me, like hotel, attractions, and everything in exchange for me posting about it.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I
So it's
just
kind of a back
wanted,
and forth there where you help
yeah,
promote them.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I'm like, and it's like I'll create like this number of reels and Facebook posts in exchange for you covering the flight, hotel,
Mhm.
attractions, meals,
Okay.
so that's how it works with like 90% of the trips that I take. And so I just wanted that to be an option
Yeah.
for other people as well, and not just influencers like me within the travel industry.
Right. Right. No, that's such a good point. I feel like too is mentioning that there is a population of people with disabilities, that aren't high profile and they wouldn't have any
Oh
other,
yeah, I
way
know.
to do something like that. So,
Yeah, I mean,
um,
right. I mean, when the government like says you can only have like $2,000 or less in your bank account,
exactly.
how can you ever save up to go on a dream trip to Morocco?
Right.
Like it's just not possible for so many people, unfortunately. So,
Right. You're
uh,
right.
yeah,
And just the benefits taking the hit, on that, like the benefits that a lot of people get with disability,
yeah,
or SSD, I think is, there's such a anxiety and risk of not wanting to jeopardize that because it's like you're living,
oh yeah, for sure.
expense. But yeah, at the same time, recreationally, there's really nothing out there, it doesn't seem like, outside of, nonprofits like yours. So like just making that available, having that opportunity for people to apply,
Yeah, yeah,
even if they're in a low income situation, I think is just like such
yeah,
a good cause.
yeah. Thanks. What is your dream trip? I'm curious.
Gosh, wow. I've thought a lot about checking out Japan. I've heard some things about the
Yeah,
cities, and I don't know, it seems like super cool that there's really like nature focused areas, but then there's like super advanced, more like an urban city setting. And I've heard things about accessibility being, really good there, but yeah, like that's one of the top ones that comes to mind.
yeah, yeah. I went to Japan last year for the first time,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely incredible. Like Tokyo is one of the most, maybe the most accessible city in the world. Like
Mhm.
it's so amazing and just beautiful. So I hope you can go there one day. You need to
Yeah,
go.
that would be nice, and I've even thought like, well, if the plane thing is still too delayed, I don't know if there's cruise ships, that would do something like that too, but I don't
Yeah, yeah,
know. Yeah,
yeah. I don't know about cruises, but
yeah,
there may be like there's always something new launching. So
yeah, that's
one
true.
day.
Yeah. What about you? Like, is there a destination coming up that maybe you haven't been to yet and that you're looking into, or?
So a trip I am really, really excited for is going to be happening this February. I'm going to Dubai
Ooh,
for
okay.
the first time. So I have really always wanted to go to Dubai and just like see the architecture and
Mhm.
like take in the sights and go to the desert. And I'm finally going to be going in February for my birthday. So
Oh, nice.
I cannot wait. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm curious, when you're first planning these out, if it's a place you haven't been, like what goes into your research as far as, looking into accessibility and seeing what the options are.
Yeah, so I always start by looking at transportation
Mhm.
options within the city and or trying to find like an accessible tour company that may have transportation available because I don't want to like book the flight and then get there and then I can't even leave the airport because there's
Mhm.
like no transportation that's accessible for me. So I always start with transportation and then after that really look at hotel options to see if any hotels match like my accessibility needs. And then after all of that, I can finally start looking at like the attractions and the fun
Yeah.
stuff that I'm gonna do when I'm there, but it always starts with transportation and hotels.
Right. Yeah, that's totally relatable for me for sure. Are there any like horror stories, kind of, or horror stories, but like bad experiences that you've gotten to a destination and something was different than you thought, or it required more, like adapting on the fly, so to speak? Was there anything like that?
Um, I mean, honestly, like I'm so type A that
Yeah,
I
yeah,
plan out every single detail before I go. So
gotcha.
I really have like, I mean, I spend months before the trip
Yeah.
stressing myself out to make sure that it's perfect and it's going to work for my accessibility needs.
Mhm.
And so I feel like the more effort that I put in before the trip, the more relaxed I can be once I finally get there. So I mean, I've not had any like terrible experiences where I got
Yeah.
there and like transportation just didn't really work out or something like that. But it takes a lot of planning for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, there's a long list of things. Even from my experience, like short trips, even that takes a lot of planning. And
Oh
so
yeah,
like,
for
I can
sure.
only imagine going to somewhere like Dubai or, Japan or something like that, the amount of detail that you have to put into making sure the experience is enjoyable.
Oh yeah, I mean, I started planning like the Dubai trip about a year in advance.
Yeah.
And for a lot of international trips, I mean, I will start planning anywhere from 6 to 12 months in advance,
Mhm.
just to have as much time as possible to plan every single detail. So
Yeah. And as far as like the advertising and everything that you were mentioning that covers kind of your expenses to travel, like do you have to reach out to specific people, or is there like a team that you're already kind of working with that establishes that?
yeah, so I go to a lot of travel conferences,
Okay.
and at those different conferences, that's really where I meet people from different destinations and
Mhm.
destination representatives. So I get most of my work from people that I meet at conferences, but otherwise, like they may reach out to me over email, or
Yeah.
I could reach out to them and just do like a cold pitch. But it's mostly people that I meet at conferences, I would say.
Okay, so kind of a networking type
Oh
opportunity
yeah,
that you look
very
into for
much.
that. Yeah, yeah, I
I
would
try to
imagine.
go. I try every year to go to at least like two or three like
Nice.
big travel conferences, and you just meet so many people there and can make some really good connections.
Yeah. When in your establishing the nonprofit and everything, was there a moment where you were thinking that this, is long term going to be something that works, or what was kind of your experience, I guess, launching it and then obviously like huge learning curve probably. Like what was that
But
like?
with a nonprofit,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I had no idea how to even launch a nonprofit when I did it. So I literally went on LegalZoom,
Yeah.
the website, like you've probably seen a million commercials
Hmm.
about them.
Hmm.
And they talked me through the entire process for setting it up,
Okay.
which is like a little bit embarrassing to admit, but it's the truth and it worked.
It's
So
involved.
yeah, it was definitely a learning process, but now once it's actually like set up, like it's fairly simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting it set up was kind of a long process. And I would say from like start to finish of like when I started like signing the paperwork to when we actually had the
Yeah.
501(c)(3) status, it was probably about 6 to 8 months. But now it's been pretty simple ever since
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. It's almost like once you go through the growing pains of setting it up and getting
Yeah,
it off the ground, then at that point, your work's, I mean, obviously your work's not done, but it
right, right.
makes it way easier for
Oh
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely easier.
Yeah. Yeah. As far, I would kind of like to shift actually to a little more of your experience with travel and everything, like with SMA, what has the progression been like and how has it sort of impacted, what you're doing with travel and everything?
Yeah, I mean, my progression luckily has been fairly slow, and like
Uh,
I've remained pretty stable over the past like decade or so. So I will sometimes notice like very small changes
mm,
where maybe like I can't straighten a finger out like as far as I could like last week, or
yeah.
I can't like lift my elbows up off of my armrests anymore. So I used to be able to do that like
Mm,
15 years ago, and I can't really do that anymore.
mhm.
And it is slowly becoming like a little harder to feed myself and like to eat independently.
Yeah.
So like it's very slow, small changes over a long period of time.
Mhm. Well, that sounds familiar. I think mine's been a little more, accelerated, I would say, just in general. But I know I was able to still use arm function, back, probably 10 years ago, I think now, and
Yeah, yeah,
everything. And so like that progression kind of makes it, difficult, obviously, to adapt. And you
yeah, yeah.
figure out
Oh yeah.
one system that works, and then all of a sudden it stops, and you have to,
Oh yeah.
redesign something. So
Yeah, when I started like the blog, I could type on a computer.
yeah,
So I could like physically type every blog post on the computer and it was
yep.
super fast. And now I can't use both hands to type on a computer.
Hmm.
So I type every single blog post in my iPhone just with like one thumb. And like I'm really quick with it. Like
Yeah,
I think to only
I
use like
bet.
one thumb, but
Yeah.
I mean it's that has definitely changed. And I feel like I maybe am not putting out blog posts like in
Mhm.
long form content
Mhm.
as frequently now as I did when I started,
Mhm.
because it takes me longer to actually write the content now.
Yeah. Do you find that you look more at doing like a vlog type thing or video based content because it's maybe a little
Yeah.
bit
I mean,
easier?
I think that's the great thing about, like, how social media has evolved for
Yeah.
me, is, like, now, like, really, like, more destinations and more companies recognize me for the work that I'm doing on Facebook and Instagram and
Mhm.
TikTok
Mhm.
as opposed to the blog. So, and I love creating videos, like, I
Yeah.
love the editing process, I love coming up with ideas and just being creative.
Yeah.
So, for me, like, I really do love, like, that Reels and TikToks are so popular now.
Yeah, that makes a difference, and I think even years ago I wasn't necessarily as comfortable with doing the video type,
Yeah, yeah.
format. And then I was like, well, there's going to be way more involved with that than what I think. And it ended up being not so bad overall. Except editing though. I'm curious, you said you enjoy the editing process. Like is it like what is that like for you and how like what kind of technology maybe do you use for that?
So I don't use, like, anything fancy, I
Okay.
just, like, use an app on my phone that, like, edits reels, and I mean,
Yeah.
I've gotten pretty quick with it, but the app is called Video Leap, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just, like, a weekly payment or, like, monthly maybe, but it's
Subscription
fairly
type.
cheap, and it's super easy to use. So, Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, yeah. AI, I think too, for me, like has been pretty helpful. And I'm curious, like,
Yeah, yeah.
have you sort of embraced, using some of that? And like, what's your take? Because I know there is some kind of debate on what, the benefits and negative sides of AI, but do you find any of that helpful for you just with, your daily activities that you're doing?
Yeah, I have recently, like, started using it a little bit,
Yeah,
but I'm very new to it, so I'm
same
sure
here.
there's, like, a lot more that it could really help me with that I just, like, don't even know about yet,
Yeah,
but, I've definitely used it to, like, help me come up with captions or content ideas or, like,
yeah,
to write emails, like, I can definitely write emails faster now
yeah,
because
yeah.
of it, so that's been really helpful, but I'm sure there's so much more that it could do that I just don't know
Yeah.
about yet.
And it's such a wide spectrum, I feel like, of technology, and like people try to just put all of it together as, one
Yeah.
big thing. But like you said, with extending text on an email, or like if I have an idea, it can help flesh out like, more detail or
Oh, yeah, for sure.
reformat it. So I feel like it's, obviously it's like any new technology, like, like there's gonna be good and bad, and until people understand it, it's kinda like a taboo type thing or something for a while, it
Oh, yeah.
seems like. Um
Definitely.
but yeah, I wish I would have had it like in grad school back when I was there
I
too.
know.
So yeah, yeah,
That would've been great, or in high school even, like,
yeah. You're
it would've
right.
been a game changer.
Yeah, no kidding for sure. Um, I do want to ask you a little bit about your experience with maybe some ableism on either the social media or like in person, experience you've had with your job and what you're doing with travel.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get, like, hate comments sometimes and just, like, people that see my content maybe, and they'll leave, like, a hateful comment on Instagram, but I think for me, like, the ableism really comes in within the travel industry.
Mhm.
Whenever I'm, like, maybe on a plane and the crew that's working that plane, like, doesn't know about the regulations that are in place for wheelchair users, and so they're trying to, like, rush me off the plane and just not take care of the wheelchair, and so it's very frequent that like where I encounter ableism the most is within air travel.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I think, that's pretty obvious with how far we have to go in the air travel industry to become inclusive. But I definitely experience ableism in that space every time I fly almost.
yeah. And with the wheelchair and everything, like I'm sure at some point you had maybe some damage done to one, or have you been lucky enough to avoid any major like issues?
I mean, I've been fairly lucky, but
Yeah.
there were 2 times when I arrived actually back home in Atlanta and arrived in Atlanta, and then I couldn't even drive myself out of the airport because the joystick was so damaged on my
Mm,
wheelchair. But it's happened twice, and I've taken, like, hundreds and hundreds of flights,
yeah.
so, like, it's a very small percentage where it was, like, severely damaged, but there
Yeah.
will be, like, very minor damages sometimes, and pretty frequently, but, I've been, I think, pretty lucky overall.
Yeah, yeah. Back when I could travel, I luckily only had, I think I had one incident with a connection I had to reattach or something. But
Yeah.
it's the horror stories that are out there are just
Oh,
like
yeah.
I can't even imagine.
I
Something
know.
serious was
Ugh, I know.
broken.
There are so many, like, one time, I was flying from Atlanta to Las Vegas,
Hmm.
and we got out on the runway, like, our plane was about to take off, and the pilot came overhead and said that they forgot a wheelchair, and they left it in the airport, and luckily, the flight attendant literally turned the plane around to go get my wheelchair.
Seriously,
Yeah,
wow.
and so I was like, I mean, if I would've arrived in Vegas and not even had a wheelchair, like, it would've been a nightmare, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Wow, I can't even imagine what that would be like. And then
Ugh, I know.
you're on the
So
plane and
now every time I fly, I'm like, "Can you let me know once
yeah,
they load the wheelchair?" Like,
like
and I
visual
always ask them to let
confirmation.
me know. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's the worst to have to go through
yeah,
that kind of
it'll be
thing.
a nightmare.
Yeah, yeah. What about like the caregiving side of things with travel? Like, have you been to a place maybe where you looked into, caregiving options there, or do you have a support system that goes with you, or what does that look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, so I have never, like, hired a caregiver that's
Yeah.
based in the destination. If I'm traveling internationally, then I always take 2 people with me.
Mhm,
It's always my mom and then a friend of mine, Kayla.
mhm.
She joined us back in 2018, and we've gone to 30 countries together now with her.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful just to have, like, 2 people there with me in case, like, one of them gets sick, then the other one can help, or it's always good just to have an extra pair of hands with me,
Oh yeah.
just like to carry luggage or help out or get medicine or, go to the store and buy something or like whatever we
Yeah,
need. So the three of us together, we're a pretty good trio, and
yeah,
we've done 30 countries together over the past what, like 7 years.
yeah, nice. And Kayla, is she sort of employed through the nonprofit, or is that kind of a separate
No, the nonprofit is like its own
its
thing,
own
so
thing?
it's
Gotcha.
totally separate. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess you said you were friends with her, but what was that like, trying to find, someone that would be a good fit? Was that like an instantaneous thing, or were you kind of just looking for a while to
Yeah, I
find?
mean, my mom and I were really just like traveling just us, like
Okay.
internationally. And we visited like a bunch of places, like just ourselves. We went to Australia, we did Israel, we went to Morocco,
Mhm.
well, we've been all over the world, just like my mom and I. But we got to a point where we were like, if something were to happen
Mhm.
to my mom when we were on the road, like what would we do? Like,
Yeah,
how would we handle this? And so we got introduced to Kayla through a mutual friend. And she started working for me just like here at home,
yeah.
helping me out during the week some. And we got to a point where we were like pretty good friends and like we felt like we could trust her. And
Nice.
so we asked her to go to India with us. And that was actually the first time that she had ever been on a plane.
Really?
And
Wow.
we took her to India in late 2018.
Yeah,
And it went really, really well. And we realized like how helpful it was to have that kind
yeah,
of person. And so ever since then, we've really taken her as long as we're going internationally.
yeah. Well, that's really cool to have something mutual like that with somebody too. Like
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure like those are dream destinations for her too with a lot of them. So
Oh, yeah.
that's
Yeah,
really cool. Having you and two others, that has to make it kind of fun too. I would think sharing
oh,
it
yeah.
with
Yeah, I
them.
mean, the more people that come, like, it's always more fun. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What about just caregiving in general? Like, how have you found caregiving? Like, even going back to college, like, has it been kind of frustrating overall, or like, how's your experience with all that?
In college, it was definitely frustrating.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine, Keela, she started working for me when I was in college, and she
Hmm.
moved with me and lived with me for a year in college. And then she's now worked for me as my primary caregiver when I'm at
Hmm.
home for I think like 12 years now. So she is my primary caregiver still.
Yeah.
And she's great. Like we're best friends. Her daughter is my niece, I say.
Wow, that's cool.
So yeah, we're a really close unit, but I've tried to hire like other caregivers over the years,
Yeah.
and it's just not been a great experience with a lot of
Same
them.
here.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it's really hard to find one that you can trust and that's dependable
Yeah.
and will actually show up and like knows what to do. And so like once you find that person, like you got to be good to
Yep.
them.
You hang on to them like crazy, huh?
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even imagine. Like, I mean, luckily I haven't needed a lot of outside care, but at the point I'm at now, it makes sense where I need to find somebody to help with some things, and it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
pulling teeth, searching around, trying
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
to figure it out.
I
Yeah.
yeah, like back in, I guess it was 2016 maybe,
Uh-huh.
I was invited by, the Israel Tourism Board
Oh
to
wow.
go on a trip to Israel in exchange for, like, writing about accessibility,
Uh-huh.
and so my mom was working a full-time job at that time, and she was like, "Well, I really can't take off, like, I can't
Wow.
go." So about 6 months before that trip, I found a caregiver, and she trained with me, like, multiple times a week for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then the week before the trip was supposed to happen, she texted me and
Ooh.
she said, "Hey, Cory, I just don't feel comfortable going anymore. I'm not gonna go." And I
Wow.
never heard from her again.
So,
And so,
whoa,
luckily,
geez,
my mom was able to take off work and could actually go on short notice, but it
that's
was
what's
just
hard.
like it was wild. Like, we literally trained for 6 months and felt like I
Wow.
felt really comfortable, like, with her going,
Was there
like
any indication from her like before that?
no, 0. Like, she was so excited to go, like, 0
That's really
indication that that
strange.
was gonna happen, so, yeah,
Yeah.
like, but you just never know, like, I mean, it's wild.
Yeah, I've actually tried, 2 out here, and after, like, the first visit or 2, it was like you said, like, ghosting, like, no response to anything, and you're just like, "Well, how could you ever depend on,
Oh, yeah.
somebody like that?" It really makes it challenging.
Oh, yeah, I've been ghosted by a few, like, it's
Yeah.
pretty frequent occurrence.
What about, like, in terms of just, like I mean, I know there's anxiety going into that, right? Because you're having them help you probably with a lot of things that are kind of tricky, but, like, how mentally, how do you, like, deal with that, like, trusting somebody to actually, help you with things?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely nerve-wracking, but I think just like the more you practice at home
Yeah.
with them, like the more comfortable you'll be. So that's really why I wanted to train with her for like 6 months before that trip
Yeah.
to like build up my confidence that she could do it, that and like make her comfortable also that she
Yeah.
could do it when we were in a new country. And so I think like the more you train with somebody, the more comfortable you'll get. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was just a wild experience that time.
I can't even imagine like how, I mean, that you had everything locked in ready to go, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's, panic
Oh,
mode probably.
oh, for sure. Definitely was panicking.
Yeah. How have you found caregivers? Like, have you kind of tried every option to locate them, or is one way work
Really,
better?
I mean, I've had the most luck just through like friends and like mutual
Gotcha.
friends. And that's how I met Keela and Kayla,
Yeah.
both my primary caregivers today. That's how I met them was through mutual friends, and that seems to be what works the best in my
The
experience.
trust
But
factor probably is a lot better when it's through somebody that
yeah,
you
yeah,
already know. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, that's a exhausting thing, and I'm just like, there's no good answers that I've found yet. So,
Yeah,
I've always wanted to visit with everybody else that used them, and be like, what's your experience like?
I know.
Because this has
Yeah,
been,
oh yeah.
exhausting.
I wish I had like better advice for you, but
Uh,
it's just
yep,
it's so wild
same
every
thing
time.
for me. Anybody asks them, just like, yeah, that's there's no real solution to it there. So,
Yeah,
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 yeah. I'm curious with with your disability and everything, like advocacy. I'm sure that you had. I mean, just by going and doing what you're doing, that's kind of advocating for disability rights and everything. But like, what if you want to talk a little bit about just your in general advocacy, even through social media? Like, is there any specific kind of mission that you're you know going for when you're
yeah.
advocating?
Yeah, I mean, I really love speaking to destinations about what they can do to like attract travelers with disabilities
Yeah.
or to become more accessible. So I speak at a lot of conferences where like destination representatives are in the
Mhm.
audience, and that's really probably my favorite kind of advocacy that I do
Yeah.
because I feel like that's really affecting the travel industry kind of like from the top down and has probably the most impact within the travel industry because if we can get the people that lead destinations to really care about accessibility,
Yeah.
then it will make it so much easier on all of us when we actually travel to those destinations.
Yeah, and I mean, that's also like a major source of profit, I would think, for a lot of the hotels, restaurants, everything, bringing our population into that as well. I mean, like that, I
Yeah.
think that's a win-win for everybody, really.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you met, I guess, anybody over the years in traveling to other countries, or anybody with disabilities that you've kind of connected with, or collabed with, or anything like that? Or has that been like,
I have met, I mean, so many incredible
yeah,
people like, around the world, and whether they work for a destination or they run a tour company that
yeah,
maybe focuses on accessibility or even other wheelchair users. So every year since 2018, I run a group trip where
mm,
my followers can join me. We always travel to a fun, like
nice.
international destination. And so I've made some really lifelong friends through those group trips. And when you're traveling with other wheelchair users and people with disabilities,
Yeah.
like it's the best feeling in the world because you all really understand like
Without
what
saying
it
anything.
takes.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean like we become lifelong friends on those group trips and
Yeah.
it's always my favorite trip every single year.
Yeah, wow, that sounds really cool, and even, my side with the social media when I do the podcasting and everything, I'm just like, it's really cool to be able to, have a way to connect to people outside the country on
Oh yeah, for sure.
disability because there's a lot of good minds and a lot of good work going on, I feel like,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but that's pretty awesome. What about in terms of like food and that kind of thing? Do you like to go coffee hopping, or like what
I
do you
mean
like to try out at different places?
I love a coffee cafe.
Yeah,
I always love that when I'm traveling, but I mean, I honestly like with food, I am very adventurous.
yeah,
I'll try anything once, and I've eaten
nice.
some really interesting items around the world. I've eaten
Ooh,
fermented shark in Iceland. I ate kangaroo in
interesting.
Australia. I've eaten guinea pig in Ecuador.
Really?
I've
Nice.
eaten they're called big ass ants in
Uh,
Colombia. They're
yeah.
literally huge ants, but I ate them in Colombia. Um,
What? Oh man, you're way braver than I am.
yeah, and I will try anything once.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
I love it.
Anything that you tried that you really didn't like?
I mean, the fermented shark
I was gonna
was
say that
terrible.
sounds.
The guinea pig was terrible.
Yeah. Eh,
But I mean, it was fun. Like it's part of the experience.
yeah, yeah. No, that's really cool to do that. I'm just like I could not. I
Yeah.
would be too selective probably. But yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of. I know there's so many directions we could go for sure, but I wanted to make sure that had a chance, like if people want to follow you or connect, or maybe look into applications for travel, like what's the best way to go? Is it website or Instagram, or
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
just anywhere?
Yeah, so my website is curbfreewithcorylee.com. And then I'm on Instagram at curbfreecorylee. So if you have like any questions at all, if you're listening in today and want to reach out, feel free to DM me on
Yeah,
Instagram and I will try my best to respond to you. And then if you do want to fill out an application for a dream trip, you can find all of that information at thecurbfreefoundation.com.
nice. Well, that sounds good, and I'll be sure to put all that information into the caption too. And yeah,
Awesome.
I'm really looking forward to sharing the episode. But
Yeah, thanks so much.
was there anything else you wanted to add or mention in closing, or
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, I know like traveling as a person with a disability can be daunting. I mean, every single time I travel, I'm like a nervous wreck about it and wondering if it's going to go right. But I can promise you that it's always going to be worth it once you actually get to the destination. So
yeah,
just like feel the fear and go for it and break out of your comfort zone. And, there's a whole world out there that you can explore.
yeah, definitely. That's definitely got me motivated to do a little bit more traveling too. So that's
Yeah,
that's
I'm
really
looking
great.
forward to it.
Yeah,
I
yeah. But
want to see you in Japan soon.
hey, that would be a lot of fun. I hope to get to do that. But yeah, I'll look forward to keeping in touch with you, and yeah, maybe set up we can do something in person here one of these days. Meet up.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, just let me know and I would
Yeah,
love to meet you sometime.
sounds good. Well, thanks again for coming.